Hi guys, it's another lovely Monday morning and here I am at the bus stop sitting and waiting for my bus. So, what am I gonna talk to you about today? Well, I am going to talk to you about having respect for yourself. Well, not something that's maybe as dramatic as what you're imagining, but basically I had a or rather, I've had this conversation a few times as I've been progressing through my career and trying to make something of myself, or, well, basically start a few ventures where, I build something and hopefully I either turn it into a successful business or I completely burn and fail, and I had a lot of fun doing so. And for the most part, burning and failing has been, it's been the norm. And I thought I was going to share something that I imagine being, because it was very difficult for me, at least when I started out, and it has a lot to do with self-confidence as an engineer, basically. So what I'm trying to say here is that I'm not going to be one of those people who will tell you that all programmers are introverts and engineers are usually socially awkward, because it's just not true. Now, unfortunately though, it's true enough and it happens enough that it's a little bit of like a prejudice, if you will, in the industry. And even though I don't believe that it's the case for everybody, I think that a lot of people can agree that when you're just starting out doing something, you have a tendency to not understand the value of what you're doing, and you will very often, I see this a lot. I mean, I did it as well a few years ago when I was looking for my first job. Like, you almost sound apologetic for applying to a position or things like that. You underestimate your own value, and you kind of think that the power is on the other side of the spectrum. Now, what I'm basically trying to say here is that when you start out in like development or an app, if you start working on an app, or for whatever reason you decide that, hey, I'm gonna start on a joint venture with somebody, unless you are completely alone in said venture, you are going to have a partner of some sort. And this is how it started out for me, at least. I had two guys who had an idea, two entrepreneurs, and they pitched me the idea at the university, and then we kind of, started working together, and like, I built a proof of concept, we did a lot of stuff, like, we had a lot of fun, right? And the discussion came sooner or later to be whether or not, how many like shares of the company each person would hold. Now, in this discussion, the entrepreneurs said, it was not by much, but the discussion basically became what's more valuable, an idea versus, actually building something. And see, the thing is that when you start out, you believe that like what you're doing isn't special in any way, or rather it doesn't hold that much value. But this is where I'm coming here today, and I'm going to tell you that if you are a software developer and you know how to build applications and so forth, you are, for an entrepreneur or somebody with a business idea, trust me, you are more valuable than gold, especially if you're working for free, which is usually the case in a startup. This is quite literally like winning the lottery, because most entrepreneurs have, like, the sad fact of the matter is that everybody has an idea. Every single person has an idea. The problem isn't getting an idea for something, the problem is building it. Quite frankly, that is the core issue, because it's the one thing that we're lacking people to do. I mean, if we had more programmers and inventors than we had ideas, then, we would be drowning in new concepts and innovations, but we are not. We have a deficit of so many programmers. So the discussion for me and my team was basically, like, I made the argument that I think that the only sane way to split up, like, the shares within the company, if it ever becomes something, is equally, because then we're equal partners. However, they did not feel the same way. They thought that their idea was so great and so developed that, they should have a little bit more. And I kind of said that, well, okay, I don't want to be harsh here or anything like that, but the odds of you finding a motivated, hungry, if you will, programmer who's willing to work for nothing just because it's a fun project are so small that, it's hilariously small. But if you can, that's great. And if you think about it, if I leave this project being the sole contributor to all this code, building all of that stuff, the project most likely is going to die. However, if you turn that and you say, okay, that's one of our entrepreneurs, if you leave the project, odds are that we are still going to keep on moving forward. And that's the nature of working at a startup. When you start out, the most valuable thing you can do, and this is before the company matures, the most valuable thing that can happen for the company is having people who can contribute features, because without features, without having a product to sell, the entrepreneurs they have almost nothing to contribute. There's very little they can do to add value to the company. And I'm not trying to say that one person is more valuable than the other. I'm trying to say to you introverts, you programmers out there, that you are more valuable than you may think. In fact, you're so valuable that, as I've said before, there's an entire industry of people called recruiters who are literally getting paid to find you and convince you to work for whoever's looking for a programmer. So don't undersell yourself, because, as I said, remember this, everyone, especially when you get a little bit, when you get good at programming, everybody's going to want you to help them with their app or their homepage or whatever, because your skill set is so high in demand by almost everybody that you're simply going to have more offers than you could possibly accept. Not just for jobs, but for social events, for social endeavors, like startups, all of that stuff. So try to remember that, you are valuable. You don't have to don't be insecure. The entrepreneurs have usually charm and they're convincing and so forth, but don't let them make you believe that they are in a power position, because they're not. Once again, having an idea, everybody has an idea, but you are one of the few people who can make it happen.